People may call me a bobblehead, but I'm gonna bobble myself into being a peach holder for next season. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Raphael and I'm here to review season 15, episode 2 of The Real Housewives getting exposed by the producer of Atlanta. We start the episode off right where we left off at Ross's 40th birthday party. Candy and Bobblehead, they were just going at it with each other while Kenya and Moneta are telling Sheree that supposedly Martell is already cheating on her behind her back and being seen with somebody else in Atlanta. And he's also messaged Kenya on Instagram at some point. So Sheree, she calls over her husband, her boyfriend, her situationship, her whatever he is, and she calls Martell over. So Martell comes on over. Kenya explains to him, look, supposedly you were seen with somebody else besides Sheree. He's looking at her like, how did you find out? I thought I was doing a good job at keeping it a secret. But he tells Kenya, no, that is not true. Sheree, you know that is not true. You know that you're my girlfriend. You know that you're my... You know what we know between each other, right? Like, I'm always here in Atlanta just for you. And I'm like, sure. What did SZA the singer say? You're like 9 to 5, I'm the weekend. And I can definitely see Martell being Sheree's 9 to 5. Well, then again, no, she's more like a weekend. But regardless, then we flash back over to Candy and Bobblehead. Sonya's trying to understand what went wrong between them. And I'm like, what do you mean? You were at Sheree's house last episode when Courtney told both you and Sheree that she had this issue with Candy. So did you not expect her to confront Candy about this made up issue at some point when they crossed paths, Sonya? Like, come on now. So then Candy, she tells her,
I just don't appreciate the way Courtney was coming at me like this and she kept bouncing her face in front of me like this. Like, I don't like a bitch doing that to me at all.
So then Sonya, she goes over to Moneta, Kenya, Martell, and Sheree to tell them about what's going on. She's telling them, guys, Candy and Courtney, they're fighting. And I'm like, that's the best you got, Sonya? Like, she should have made it a little bit juicier. This would have been me if I was Sonya. Sheree, Kenya, Martell, this is not Love and Marriage Huntsville. What are you doing on the show? Anyways, Sheree, Moneta, Kenya, you won't believe what just happened. Candy and Courtney, they just got into a crazy fist fight. Right now, they're rolling around on the floor. Marlo's trying to separate them. I believe that Courtney, she told Candy that Latasha was the best escape group member, and then Candy completely lost it. She swung on her, and now they're rolling around on the floor. Come, let's go, guys, let's go. We need to separate them. But no, Sonya wants to be all dry about it. So then they all get up like the Avengers. Sheree, she gets Martell her drink, her purse, and her titties. So they go running over to see what's going on. And I love that Kenya, she was down for whatever when it comes to Candy. Then Marlo in the confessional, she wants to say, Courtney and Candy, they're both acting like Mariah Carey and Jennifer Lopez, that they don't know each other. First of all, Marlo, don't you ever compare Mariah Carey and Ashanti, Jennifer Lopez, to Courtney. Like, let's not do that. And speaking of Mariah Carey, she's coming to perform at LA Pride in a couple of weeks, and I'm going and I cannot wait because I've been wanting to see her in person for years now, and it has never aligned. It's finally aligning, so I can't wait. And I don't care if she's on stage, walking from one side of the stage to the other, blinking her eyes. I'm going to enjoy every single second of it. So then they all get together to discuss what's going on with Martell. Martell, he backs away for a second. He goes away for a minute. But Todd, he's still walking around like the FBI. He's just looking around like, hello, we have a code 602 here. Sheree Whitfield is choosing another terrible man to date on this show. We need backup, quickly. So they start talking about this message that Martell sent to Kenya 2 years ago, 6 months ago, back in 1998, whatever. He sent her a message basically thanking her for what she said about him on a blog back in 2020, I believe. And Kenya, she went in to explain a little bit more on Candy's
Speak on it
last night on YouTube. And she basically said that, yeah, she said something nice, I guess, about him on a blog. He messaged her to say thank you. She saw it, but she really didn't care. And then I believe he messaged her again, but she didn't want anything to do with him. So she was just like, no, I'm gonna stay away from him. I don't want him like that. And like I said in my last review, I feel like Martell was trying to ease his way onto the show by trying to date Kenya. And then when that didn't work, he moved on to Sheree. And like I said before, Sheree's gullible, so here we are. So then Sheree, she's looking at the message and it doesn't really mean anything to her because it happened way before her and Martell were even a thing. And I'm looking at Kenya like, are you trying to pull a Giselle Bryant from Potomac? Last season, how she told Candace the very first episode, and she waited until the cameras were up to tell her how she felt uncomfortable in front of Chris at last year's reunion. Is that what you're doing, Kenya? But she kind of explained it on Twitter, I believe, and I don't speak on it, how she waited until Sheree and Martell were serious to tell her. And I don't know, I feel like that could still be a bullshit excuse, but we'll go with that. So then Sheree was just like, what does this mean? This doesn't mean anything. Like, this is not enough proof. Candy is telling her,
but you told us to tell you if we saw anything suspicious about Martell, so she's showing you the proof.
So then Sonya comes over. She's like, oh, look, I got a new dress. And I'm like, so anyway, so yeah, Martell's. But then she hears the conversation and she was just like, okay, guys, I'm leaving. I can't right now. So they're all looking at her like, wait, why? What's going on? And Sonya's like, I can't do this drama right now. It's my husband's birthday party. I gotta go. Goodbye. So she walks away. And if I was them, I would have looked at her like, who the fuck was that? Like, Sonya swore that the show was gonna stop just because she walks away. Like, okay. But they continue. So then Sheree, she calls over her husband. Martell. So then Martell comes on over. He's looking at the message and he was just like, is this your phone? So Kenya tells him, oof, Martell, you're so aggressive. I'm scared. And at first, I was very confused as to where that came from. And I'm not trying to defend Martell in any way. But if the conversation revolves around him, he technically has a right to know what's going on and to defend his image. Even though his image is not really worth defending at this point because it's pretty trash. It's just the way that he went about it that became hostile and aggressive. I didn't like the way he handled it. And it doesn't help that he has a track record of acting like this towards women, specifically his ex-wife, Melody. Again, I've heard that he does treat Melody very aggressively on Love and Marriage Huntsville. I don't watch the show, but I have heard that he treats her terribly. So it's kind of like, Martell, it's a pattern at this point. So he walks off, but then he comes back and he was just like, you know what? It doesn't even matter if I tried to fuck you 2 years ago. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, Martell, where did that come from? Like, nobody was accusing you of doing that, but okay, so he's walking away, he's coming back, he's walking away, he's coming back. Sheree, of course, instead of defending Kenya, somebody who's always defended her in her previous horrible abusive relationships in the past, what does she do? She runs after Martell. She's like, no, Martell, come back. You're my storyline this season, come back. So then Martell, he comes back, and this is his third or second mistake that I didn't like. He takes his phone and he shoves it in Kenya's face, and I just didn't like the way he did it. Like, it was way too close. He does it to Candy too. Like, look at the message that I sent you. I never sent you anything after that. And again, he deleted his second message that he sent to Kenya. He just thinks that we're all stupid. And again, Kenya is far from that. So he's walking away. Kenya, she's not having that. She gets up, she gets into his face, but then Sheree, she's in between them. She's trying to block off both of them. Moneta. Did y'all see Moneta? She was trying to be in the mix too. I'm like, she's over here like, yeah, I'm Team Kenya. Hey, I'm over here. I'm Moneta. Martell, I don't like you either. I used to be Neo's wife. He sings the song Miss Independent. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, you could also take a seat with Sonya. So they get into it. Kenya is telling Martell, you're a lying piece of shit. You're once a cheater is always a cheater. I can't believe you're gonna talk to this queen, the queen of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I can't believe you're talking to me like this. You're also gonna cheat on Sheree, you lying piece of shit. And I'm like, wow. I would have went home and cried into my pillow, but Martell, I forgot what he's telling Kenya. Sheree, she's like, no, Martell, go. So eventually, Martell exits stage left. Sheree is telling Candy and Kenya, like, why are you giving me this information now? It doesn't matter. Like, if he messaged you 6 months ago, who cares? Like, you're just trying to blow this whole thing out of proportion and trying to make a scene. And it could look that way, but I mean, at this point, Sheree, you just, I don't know, because Kenya, she also makes a good point how Sheree's always defending somebody who's aggressive or abusive towards her. And then they show the flashback of when they were in the van with Phaedra and Bob, her ex-husband, and he was just like, oh, I didn't choke you hard enough. I completely forgot about that scene. We have seen some crazy things on the Real Housewives franchise. That is crazy. And the only thing that I can tell Kenya is that you can't help somebody who doesn't want help. If you see that Sheree is constantly dating somebody who's terrible over and over and over again, then there's just but so much that you can say or do or even guide her in the right direction before it becomes a toll on your life and it becomes a headache in your life and you start stressing over her no matter how close you are. And then at that point, you have to you have to maybe cut that relationship. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, Martell should have just told Kenya, yes, I messaged you, and yes, I probably did message you again, and I deleted it. Oops. Anyway, now I'm with Sheree. Sheree, let's go dance. And that's that. But instead, you escalated this whole situation, and now you look like a bigger ass on this show. We finally see the return of Drew. So she shows up to her house. Her husband, Ralph, and the kids are excited. Well, the kids are excited to see her. She sits down to give him an update on where she was the first episode. The reason why she wasn't there, she went to Chicago to go visit her father, who unfortunately, and I might mispronounce it, he has Alzheimer's disease and he can't really remember much. He can't remember people that he once knew in his life, including her, his own daughter. And I cannot imagine that. That sounds so sad and heartbreaking. Like, I really do feel for Drew or anybody who has gone through something like this. Like, I can't imagine that. And she says that she showed up. He didn't really know who she was until she played him a clip of her singing. And then he remembered her through her voice. And, you know, we see a little clip of him being excited and happy and all. And that was cute, but again, it's just so sad. And it's even more sad because Ralph, you're a bigger piece of shit. Like, I'm assuming that you knew of this or you knew about this, and you should have also hopped your ass on the plane with Drew to go support her in this time of need. Yet you went to the party to go support Ross. And Ross is a nice guy and all, and his party was nice, but you know, you could support him any other time. You could go to the next party, but yet you decided to go there. Like, choices. And you know, she tells Ralph that she wants to get back into music. Like, that kind of like motivated her to get back into singing. And you know, Drew, even before I knew who she was on the Housewives, I knew of Drew years ago prior, and she had one of my favorite songs ever, like a long time ago, called Slow It Down. If you haven't listened to it, go on YouTube. It's such a catchy song. Slow it down. Do you like the way I put it down? Do you like the way I break it down? Anyway, but you need to listen to it. And now she has a new song called Already Know. And the second that I heard the little snippet playing in the background, I knew it was going to be a hit, at least in my household. Like, the song is so catchy. It has been on replay since I heard it last night. It's such a catchy song. But when she told the producer, oh, Ralph, he produced it and he wrote the lyrics, I'm like, wait a minute, because I was looking at the lyrics, and you know, I'm gonna read some of the lyrics to you because they're a little questionable coming from Ralph. So here we go, shall we? So, I know my lovin' hit different. Hope when we switch in positions. Ain't gotta ask me whose is it, cause you already know. But Ralph, see, the issue is, do we already know who does it belong to? Because you could go to Tampa and disappear for a whole weekend, yet we don't know where you were, what you were doing over there. You never told Drew about it. So these lyrics are a little contradicting, but he did write a line that was catchy. He says, "You're about to get the business. Quarantine is over. No distance." I'm like, ooh, Ralph, you're a shitty husband, but I like that one. You get 10 points. We see Sonya and Candy meeting up for lunch. They have a newfound friendship and they've been hanging out outside of the show. They've gone to Disney World, which I like to see the Housewives doing when the cameras are not there. Sonya is asking Candy, so what's been new? What's been going on in your life? And I'm like, I thought both of you were hanging out outside of the show. What happened? Did we not discuss this in Disney? But Candy, she tells Sonya,
I mean, there's been so much going on in my life. You know, between Todd, he's been trying to get me to write one of his movies. I still need to do my taxes. And I just have so many things to do. And I'm getting ready for BravoCon. And are you going?
So Sonya was just like, yeah, I'm going to BravoCon. Which, by the way, I've never gone. I would love to go. I wish I would have went last year, but it was a disaster, I heard. This year, it's in Las Vegas. So maybe, who knows, like maybe if everything aligns well, I would love to go. But this is my idea to Bravo. I feel like BravoCon should be its own spin-off, you know, like a 3-episode or 1-episode, 2-episode thing. And we could see like all the housewives interacting with each other, like leading up to the event. And then when they're there, you know, because so much happens. And I just feel like it'll just be such a good opportunity for a nice spin-off every year, you know, just, but Bravo, you know, if you're watching this, contact me. We could talk numbers. So then then Candy asks Sonya, what's been going on with you? Sonya tells her that Ross wants her family out the house, but she doesn't know how to go about it yet. And Sonya, if you would have spent the $100,000 that you used on your husband's birthday party last week wisely, then maybe you could have gotten your family a nice little place outside of your house, somewhere down the street, somewhere local, somewhere 3 hours away, and all your issues will be fixed. But here we are. So then she tells Candy, so what was going on with you and Courtney? What was going on at the party? So Candy was just like,
I don't really know. She just kept bopping her head at me for no reason, and I just don't understand what her issue was towards me. I never did anything to her.
So then Sonya should have just continued drinking her drink and just left it at that, or continue talking about BravoCon or her family, because then she puts her own foot in her mouth and she was just like, oh, well, I actually know what happened, because before that whole incident, I was talking to Courtney, and Courtney, she was talking about you to me. She said that you were this and that you attract a certain crowd of people towards your restaurant. Candy hit her with the right question and she says,
okay, Sonya, I understand, but what did you say to Courtney to defend me? Did you say anything? Did you defend me at all?
And then Sonya was completely stuck. She was just sitting there with her martini like, no, for sure, Kenny. No, I definitely did. Like, I remember I totally did. I told Courtney, like, no, stop, like, Candy's my friend, like, it's cool, like, no, that, like, I definitely defended you. And then the flashback said otherwise, because then we see in the flashback, she was just laughing along with Sheree and Courtney. We expect this from Sheree, because Sheree, she doesn't really like Candy right now, but you hung out with her at Disney. Yeah, you're laughing along with her comments, and if you're gonna stand in something, at least standing it all the way. Don't switch up now just because you have Candy in front of you and she's asking you the right question. If I was Sonya, I would have been like, yeah, I laughed along because you didn't defend me last year either with Kenya, with that whole situation. So anyway, let's continue eating. When are we going to Disney again? But she was just like, oh no, I defended you, blah, blah, blah. And then Candy, she said it perfectly.
I can't stand these fake classy bitches.
Candy then heads over to Blaze's restaurant with her husband Todd. They want to revamp the whole place because during the pandemic, it shut everything down, so it kind of threw them off a bit, but they want to get everything back on track, so they're here to test out certain things. Then we see Philip. He was a main cast member on Candy's spinoff, Old Lady Gang, which is so unfortunate they canceled, by the way, because it was a good show. But then we see Philip. He's there for a brief second, and we should add him as a friend of the show. He'll be interesting to watch. And then Candy, she goes on to tell Todd,
so Todd, what else are you thinking of doing specifically?
Todd, he lets her know that he wants to open up a Mexican restaurant called, I thought the name was so catchy, it's called Old Lady Gang. I thought that was cute, but he just wants to open it up just to open it up for money. And I mean, yeah, that's a possibility that it can work, but at the same time, Todd and Candy, I've never gone to Blaze or Old Lady Gang, but from what I have heard, I've heard nothing good, that their restaurant is pretty bad, allegedly. So if you're just doing everything for money purposes, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but if your heart's not in it and you're just doing it for a cash grab, it's probably not going to succeed in the end. Like, it's probably not going to work out beneficial in the end for you. Like, you can, make some money here and there, but in the end, you're going to have all these terrible reviews for your restaurant. So just kind of like stick to something that you actually want to do, which is movies and writing and all of that. So then Candy's cousin, Melvin, who's also a chef at Blaze, he walks in with a sling around his arm. He's sitting down. We're supposed to pretend like we don't see it. They start testing out some foods, having small conversation. It was pretty awkward and very quiet. Candy with her awkward laugh. And then the producer comes in. He's leaning across the table as if he owns the place. He looks at both Todd and Candy. So, I need to speak to both of you. Are we not going to talk about the elephant in the room? And I'm like, not the producer trying to get a peach. I'm like, where was this producer for Potomac last season? Where was he for Salt Lake City, for Beverly Hills and Erica Jane and all her lawyer fees and all of that? Like, where was he at? But, finally, somebody's asking all the right questions. And I get it that it's a legal case or whatever. You can't really say much on camera. I've heard it all before, Erica Jane. But no, this is the Housewives. Mention it all. So then Candy, She was just like,
I mean, there's not really much that we can really say right now.
Todd, he was just like, oh, well, it's an ongoing battle. I mean, not battle, but it's an ongoing legal thing. We can't really say much, etc., etc. And then in the confessional, Kenya, she was just like, Atlanta is going up with the crime rate and we don't want it at the restaurants, at Candy's restaurants. Sonya, we see her, she's like, yeah, I really don't like the violence going around. And then Sheree says, when you go to Old Lady Gang, you don't know if you're getting biscuits or bullets. Sheree, just wait till the reunion because oh my goodness. So then Candy, she explains it in the confessional. She that's one thing that Candy, you can say whatever you want about Candy. Candy is very honest on her life. She's not gonna hide anything. If you ask her, she's probably, well, most likely 100% she's gonna tell you the truth. If anything, if I was the producer, I would have been a little bit more messier. I would have been like, are we not going to talk about the elephant in the room and what we heard about Todd last season that supposedly he goes by Melvin and he cheats on you? Are we not going to talk about that? But that's just me. But Candy, she explains that, there was an incident that happened at Blaze. Her cousin who's sitting right in front of her, he was working, and then they had another employee come in. He was intoxicated. They got into it. Something happened outside, and then he ended up shooting him. And just horrible, just terrible. And I wonder if that's the reason why Old Lady Gang got canceled. Like, there's no reason why that show got canceled in the first place, but unfortunate. Kenya and her daughter Brooklyn, who's so tall, by the way, I cannot believe she was just a little baby the other day, and now she's playing tennis, she's running around. Like, it's just so crazy to me. But she meets up with her friend Akila, who I said in my last review, she was the mannequin of the episode. She was just there, just standing around, not really doing much. And I guess we're gonna see her in more episodes. And at this point, honestly, they could have added her as a friend of the show as well. Like, I wouldn't have mind, given what we see from Courtney, but they're having a play date to play tennis and to discuss Martell and Sheree and that whole situation at the party. And speaking of Sheree, she's meeting up with Sonya to have lunch or dinner. And can we have different activities for once? Like, this is Sonya's fourth or fifth lunch already in one episode? I want to see them do different things, like go swimming, go grocery shopping, go pay the electricity bill, like do something different for once. But they're there discussing Kenya and how she was inappropriate for bringing up what she did at the party to Martell and the way she went about it. And of course, Sheree is defending a man and his trash behavior instead of sticking up for her friend, who she's no longer, I'm assuming, Kenya, and who has also stuck up for her in many horrible situations. Example, last season with her and the guy that she was dating from jail. But again, Sheree just does not see that. Like, it's just crazy the way her eyes are like completely closed all the time. But she's telling Sonya, I don't really like that she called Martell aggressive. I don't appreciate that. Sonya, she was just like, yeah, I don't appreciate that either, because she did that to Ross. Last season she did the same thing, but that was a little bit different because Kenya, she apologized at the reunion, she misspoke, etc., etc. And of course, I'm looking at Sonya like, I wonder if she's going to remember this conversation. If Kenya eventually confronts her in the future, like, oh, what did you say about me in that one-on-one meeting with Sheree? Sonya's going to be like, oh, I never said anything. I said that you never said anything about my husband. I can see it now. Speaking of, Kenya, she's talking to Akila about the whole situation. She wants to talk to Sheree about the, whole situation with Martell and how she's always sticking up for him, etc., etc. And she also lets us know, we all knew that she has a past with being with abusive men. And again, Sheree does not see that, nor will she ever see that, but she blames it on Sheree being digmatized. And that could be a possibility, but we've all been there before, right? Right? Don't be shy. If you've been digmatized, you could drop it in the comments. We've all been there before, allegedly. Then we see Drew and Ralph at the studio. Ralph, why don't you go look around Puerto Rico and search up a studio so we could drop some beats? And that's exactly what they did. So they're there to record Drew's new song, Already Know, that I already said should be #1 on Billboard. It's very interesting seeing these scenes between them when we already know how it turns out. But Drew says that the studio is the one thing that's keeping them connected. They're rekindling their marriage. And if you take that out the equation, there's nothing there. There's nothing there between them, unfortunately. But she wants to document her love life, her marriage, her whole life in general through her music again. She wants to get back into it. And Drew, I have an idea for you. I feel like you should drop an album specifically a diss album towards Ralph at the very end of the season, at the finale. I feel like, you know how Adele, how she names her albums 19, 21, 25, 30, 100, whatever? You should name your album 16. You know, since next season, this is gonna be your storyline, and each song on this album could be something about Ralph. Like the first song could be called Last Night in Tampa, maybe the interlude. The second song could be called The Wrong Man, featuring Sheree Whitfield. The next song could be called His Little Secret, featuring Escape, the remix. The next song could be called Don't Come For Me Unless I Send the Divorce Papers For You, featuring Kenya Moore. The next song could be Running Away From Love, featuring Sonia Richards. And lastly, we could have Divorce Settlement Money, featuring Marlo Hampton. It's a good idea, Drew. And if you're listening or you're watching, just slide into my DMs. But don't slide into them the way Martell did Kenya and delete your message right after. I got you. Sheree shows up at the local Home Depot, and as she's walking in, there's these two employees packing up her She Continues Making Horrible Decisions by Sheree merchandise into boxes. Sheree, she notices that one of the sweaters have wrinkles on it, so she tells them, we're not gonna send it like this, right? Like, this is in terrible condition. Now, if I was the employee, I would have told Sheree, you better be lucky that somebody even brought this. Either take it or leave it. You know, but all jokes aside, I love Sheree, okay? It's never anything personal, but they continue packing up all the sweaters. I'm not sure why, when they're just gonna unpack it and put it back on the shelf as soon as the cameras go down. I'm just kidding, but then Kenya, she pops up, and ironically, she's wearing a cheetah outfit. You know, get it? Since she's there to talk about Martell, and Martell, he's a cheater, allegedly, get it? So cheetah, cheater, get the correlation? No? Okay, I'll see myself out. So she gets there and she's looking at the merchandise. She was just like, oh, the logo of your She by Sheree line, you know, it looks like the Dallas Cowboy logo. And, you know, it was so shady. And if anybody said anything about her Kenya Moore hair care thing that she sells, it would be an issue, right, Kenya? But she goes on to talk about how she just filmed a commercial with Kyle Richards and Teresa Giudice, which was really cute, by the way. It was really nice. I wish they did more stuff like that. And they eventually start talking about Martell. She says that she does not feel offended that Martell says, oh, you know, it doesn't matter if I tried to screw you 2 years ago. What she cares about is that he basically initiated that she was a hoe. And he said that she probably replies to everybody's DMs. But what was the point of the whole conversation? Because Sheree didn't hear anything that Kenya had to say. All she said was, well, Kenya, it wasn't okay for you to get in his face either. Like, that's not cool of you to act like that. And Sheree, okay, that's one thing. But what about your man? What about him? Like, hold him accountable as well. Like, it's always the women that she wants to, like, come at. But the men that she's with, it's just like, oh, no. Whatever they do, it's completely fine with her. And it's just crazy to me. So Kenya, she's trying to explain to her, like, look, I was just defending myself. That's it. Sheree, excuse. Well, he was just defending himself as well. And, okay, he could have defended himself by saying, oh, well, you know what? Okay, fine. If I message you, it's whatever. That's that. Let me walk away. And that's that, you know, knowing that you're a man. But no, he just wants to go back and forth. And again, just assume that Kenya's a hoe, blah, blah, blah. But then again, Kenya, you know, she was assuming that he was a cheater, even though, you know, it is out there. But still, two wrongs don't make a right, or whatever they say. Kenya tells her that she has a history of dating abusive men, and Martell is no different. He's also abusive. Now, would I label Martell abusive? Abuse does not have to come in just physical form. It could come in mental, emotional, in many different ways. So, but Sheree, she's not having it. She tells Kenya, I don't really like these labels that you continue to try to put on black men. You know, try to say they're aggressive, abusive. I don't like any of that. And Kenya, she spoke on it on Candy's Speak On It show on YouTube. She said that if it quacks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, then it's a duck. And she's calling it out the way it is, no matter what race you are or who you are. So there is that. And yeah, I guess they just never agreed to anything. You know, Sheree wants her to apologize, and again, it's never the same way for the men. Like, that's the crazy part to me. Like, Sheree, like, and in a way, I feel sorry for Sheree. I can't diagnose her with anything, but I feel like maybe she should go to a counselor, a psychologist, and figure out if there's something much deeper inside on why she's always defending men's toxic behavior or always choosing the wrong men in relationships. Maybe something's there, but you know, it's also a shame, too, because we know that this whole situation between her and Martell, it's a bunch of BS. It's all fake. So it's just like, what are we really defending here, you know? But I guess we'll find out as the season goes. Let me know what you all thought about this whole episode down in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.